Hello and welcome to Start the Week. It's a video that we do every Monday on the Anfield Wrap. Neil Atkinson and Craig Hannan, and the aim of Start the Week, because this is free week, the aim of Start the Week is to inject a ton of energy into your week, listening to the Anfield Wrap, supporting Liverpool. Look forward to things, be full of excitement, be full of enthusiasm. Come away from it thinking, my God, those shows look great. The weekend was amazing. We're looking forward. We're on the march. How are you feeling?
Fucking hell. I'm alright. I'm a bit better than Saturday.
I didn't see you at all on Saturday.
Marginally better.
What did you do on Saturday post-match? Tell me about your post-match.
I went to the Glenbock and mostly did the work, things that I had to do, and then removed myself from anything Liverpool FC, anything associated with Liverpool FC. Went home, didn't go on social media, didn't watch Match of the Day, just ignored football the entire weekend. I feel like I'm much better for it. So that's what I did. What did you do?
So I did the post-match pints.
Yes.
Then I did the ratings.
Yep.
Thought Phil was really good, by the way, given the fact he had to also sit there and sit through post-match pints, and also he got off after the third. So he went to the Glenbook. So it goes 3-0. He goes to the Glenbook. He just sits in the Glenbook, and he's just sat there waiting. And then he sits there as we do post-match pints. He's just sat there waiting, and then he sits there and sits next to me for the ratings and does a pretty good job.
Tell you what, the ratings after that 3-0 getting beat by Forest is the graveyard shift, because particularly on free week, it's going to go up, and people are just going to call you a dickhead for whatever ratings they're not going to be low enough for people.
No, I don't think
is that what happened?
Well, no, he was throwing in 3s, 4s and 5s. So people would like 1s and 2s, then that's absolutely fine. But he was throwing in 3s, 4s and 5s. Because the problem was the first half an hour, footballers played quite well, so you end up and that was the oddness and the difficulty of the whole thing. And then I wrote my piece, which was difficult, and I woke up on Sunday and I just feel like it was a paragraph light. That's the funny thing about writing the way in which you write. I think it needed one more paragraph to sort of to temper and explain before I moved into the sort of the latter part of it, because I think there was just room for a bit of misunderstanding as to what I was getting at, but I was just sat there trying to do that
in a pub.
And yeah, I mean, I'm fine with that. I've literally got years of experience of this. So
I've seen you in nightclubs when it's going off all around you.
I wrote a piece that I dislike immensely now. Well, no, I don't dislike the piece immensely. That's unfair. But the whole process I didn't enjoy for the Observer in Pogues. So I'm quite relaxed about that. I'm not going to complain about that. But yeah, it's funny because when you do the writing, you sometimes you read it the next morning, not because you feel like someone else wrote it. That's not quite the case, but you're a little bit like, all right, well, where did we end up? Yeah. And let's have a little look at that. And as I say, I just feel like it was one paragraph light in terms of moving towards wanting them to maybe rage that bit more, because it feels maybe a little bit too ragey, if you know what I mean. Yeah. People said nice things, which is all people tend to, and that's good of them. But yeah, it was one of them. And then I went for something to eat in town. Briefly saw Fuad.
He's associated with Liverpool FC, you see, so I would have.
You couldn't have done it, could you?
Stay away from him.
Yeah, you couldn't have done it. Also, the city of Liverpool is associated with Liverpool FC, so you had to stay away from that as well.
Yeah, okay. It becomes more and more difficult, this theory, but it seemed to work.
But it seemed to work for you.
Yeah,
you're in rude health today. I cancelled Sunday Best. I got a really good message from someone who was meant to be on Sunday Best, which was, "I'm really sorry, work's called me in tomorrow morning, I've got to go." And I was like, "Don't you fucking worry about it." And I had a list of things to do, and one of them was going to be cancel Sunday Best, but you've just preempted that. You're fine.
We also, you wouldn't be expected to withhold the values of Sunday Best, which is it for it to be best. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
The absolute opposite.
Sunday Worst. Yeah. Can't start calling the show Sunday Worst.
No. I had my first Bovril at the weekend,
Oh, right, okay. Is that
ever?
Really?
It was unbelievable.
You're in favour?
It changed my life. Yeah.
You're in favour of the Bovril?
Yeah, it was unbelievable. Keo, I was stood beside Keo, and Keo said, I'm nipping off. It was about 20 minutes in. I'm nipping to get a Bovril. And he was like, "Do you want one?" I was like, "Nah, I'm all right." And then I thought about it. I was like, "I want warmth here." And I know that it's a bit like gravy. I've heard that, but and he brought it up, and it was like gravy mix with cup of soup. And I fucking love cup of soup. I love cup of soup like every couple of years. This is what you tuned in for, but it was the best part. Now. It was the best part of my experience at Anfield, and it was associated with Liverpool FC actually. So fair play. Good Bovril.
Well, you got it from Liverpool FC.
Yeah, bought it
over
from
the
them.
counter.
Yeah, straight from them. But it was unbelievable. It was a moment that like I'll think about a lot, given how few moments we have to think about.
Do you feel as though will the experience not be sullied by virtue of the fact that your first Bovril? So every time you have a Bovril, you'll remember
chasing the dragon.
But also my first Bovril was that game against Nottingham Forest.
No.
You'll separate that.
Yeah, separate.
Art and artist.
I am wary of chasing the dragon of like that first high of Bovril. Do you know what I mean?
Of course, yeah.
I'm going to try and hold off against PSV and then wait for the next home game. And by that stage, it'll have been quite a long time since the initial Bovril.
10 days.
Yeah. So, but still, it's something to look forward to, isn't it?
It's something to look forward
Anfield.
to. Yeah, it's something
we haven't got much.
It is something to look forward to at Anfield at this point in time. I spent yesterday furious with them, and I'm still furious with them, with the wider situation. What's hard is, I did review. Really good, by the way. We did about an hour with Dan and Sean, so check that out. It's on audio anyway. You get your podcast from.
Everything's free this week.
Yeah, everything's free this week. So
well
review.
Timed.
Review was good. So we were sort of going through it, but you just sort of left with the 2 goals. The third, I'm less bothered about, even though it makes the scoreline seem more brutal. But the 2 goals in different ways, you just sort of left going. They've just got no resilience, and I said on Friday's show before and last week, Jim was talking about it, and he said, you seem like you're worried. I said, well, I'm sort of not worried in that I think we'll be fine. I thought we'd win the game, but the reason why I thought we'd win the game is I thought we'd score first. I thought we'd start fast and score first, and we did start fast. We just didn't score first, and I'm just sort of left going. But as soon as he didn't score first, I just thought, well, we're fucked here now. And that was what I said to Jim. I said, if they score first, they'll win, and if they don't score first, they'll lose. And that's how you end up in a situation where you look at a league table and Liverpool have got 18 points. They played 12, they've won 6, lost 6. Is every time they're in the league this season, Frankfurt is the one exception, but every time they've scored first, they've gone on and won the game. And every time they've conceded first, they've lost the game. And it's as simple as that. And it's no way to live, and it's no way to play football. And I thought that in loads of ways, Saturday was actually the worst example of it.
Yeah,
because they were that bad after they conceded.
Yeah, that is one of the biggest worries. That one of the things that we celebrated most about both this team and a lot of the players within this team over the years is this idea of mentality monsters, and then mentality monsters 2.0, and then even at the beginning of the season when we knew things weren't quite right, when there was adversity in front of them, it almost like kicked them into gear, and now it's the complete opposite. That worries me in a team where if you go through it, there are a number of country captains. Add to that the leadership group that we've got. We've got so many leaders in that team. Right down to even some of the younger players as well. They all have these leadership qualities, so that really, really worries me. That we know there are other factors that we constantly have to sort of mention that Andy Robertson mentions in the week and all of that. I'm interested. You said there about the first 30. So I thought Liverpool played quite well first 30. I thought they created a chance. They had a few shots, but I wasn't watching them going, "Oh yes, this is what we're about." Like I felt like that first 30, I was encouraged by it because it wasn't a lot of the other performances that we've seen recently. Do you know what I mean by that? Like it was like it was almost in context of how sort of poor we've been in the league over the past 6 weeks.
I thought it was a perfectly fine if you're playing well as of last season. 30 minutes where you're the better side, you're on top, you're creating opportunities, you're getting in behind them. It's not just how many shots they have, although they did have 10. They had 10 shots, only 2 of which were outside the box, one of which was the Szoboszlai one, which deflects off the lad, which leads to the corner, which then leads to the other corner, which leads to the goal. But where, that to me could have hit anyone, could have gone in. There's the McAllister one that's cleared off the line, hit the lad in the face. There's a couple, I just thought that they looked full of threat, and the ball's whizzing across the box. Kirkes and Gakpo are striking up a partnership. Salah looks dangerous on the right hand side. He's undermining. He's got. In the end, I think Williams defends him really well. Second half, I think he manages to stabilise, but obviously it's all a lot easier when the scoreboard's on your favour, if you know what I mean. I think in that period, it felt like they were getting in. I thought the right hand side was functioning well. There's a little bit of I'd have liked more of arguably both Isak and, having watched it back, McAllister to be involved in the middle of the pitch.
Yeah.
I think that you maybe want a little bit more from those two. 2, and they didn't feel as
though
though
McAllister was poor again.
They didn't feel like they had much, in terms of them being involved in the game. Because the right hand side, Szoboszlai, Jones, Salah all felt like it was working quite well. The left hand side, Gakpo, Kerkez felt like it was working quite well. Virgil was playing perfectly fine as far as I was concerned. I thought Konate actually for the first half an hour was all right, and it was they were trying to do the thing where they leave him with the ball, but Liverpool had a little plan for that, and a couple of times he worked it out quite nicely. None of this is to say Liverpool, it wasn't like the 5-0 against Nottingham Forest going back to the late 80s. My point was, it just sort of looked like it's meant to look.
We're almost agreeing. I agree with just about perfectly fine. But I think, in the pub afterwards and stuff like that, I know a lot of people were saying, I thought we looked really good on. I didn't. I thought we looked positive, which is obviously it's a lot better than.
I just thought we looked like last season. If what I mean is, I thought we looked like, there's tons of these games that we've had down the years now at Anfield where Liverpool are the Champions League team. They're coming up against a team who aren't a Champions League team. The game kicks off. You're the better side. You're on the front foot, and at some point you're going to make it 1-0. And maybe, just maybe, there was a little bit of them feeling sorry for themselves, even when the Szoboszlai shot that really could just go anywhere. The keeper's wrong-footed, and it passes the post rather than drops into the net. I don't know about that, really. I think that's sort of trying to look for something narratively that doesn't exist. But my point is more, I just thought, this is the thing that you just see at football matches at Anfield, and that's why I was positive about it. It wasn't, for instance, what we saw against, it isn't, for instance, what we saw against Manchester United after the previous international break. It wasn't that. It wasn't that sort of timbre of performance where they all looked like they were quite unsure. But then in that one, the same thing happens in that they just concede after 2 minutes, and then the crap.
I was surprised about Isak starting. I know a lot of people will be surprised or aren't happy about Szoboszlai being moved. We did the pre-match warm up, and I put Szoboszlai at right back. So he did exactly what I would do. I was surprised about Isak starting, and the reason why is because he'd spoken in the press conference about him not getting the minutes that he'd hoped for Sweden. Obviously, Katike has a strong international break, but most of all, if you watch Isak for Newcastle, what Isak is more like, he's more like, to me anyway, and I might be wrong, you'll be able to tell me better what StatsBomb and all of that says, but to me, what I expected was we're getting a bit more of a Haaland striker, whereby you play him in behind, he'll score, you give him an opportunity in the box, he'll score. Most of the time he's going to put it away. In a game, in a time in the season when we are where we are at, what I would have liked is someone like Ekitike, who is much more busy and who's going to drop in sort of deep, and he's going to cause a bit more trouble, and there's not going to be this gap between the midfield and the 9, and it can be like a bit more of a, not necessarily a false 9, but someone that joins up the play and is able to sort of bring the others on the wing into it and just connects the midfield with the attacking 3. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
So I was surprised that he goes with Isak, because again, he just looks like out on his own. He just looks. We're obviously not creating that much for him, but he as a player is, if he's not going to be if there's not going to be chances created for him, then he's not going to really be in the game.
Yeah, but I think that's also something you would have said much of the time, not always, but much of the time, about whoever it is who plays number 9 for Liverpool last season. That they're there to work hard. They're there to work hard. And Nunes, the point being that they
work harder than Isak did.
They actually don't on the numbers.
Really?
Yeah, on the numbers they work, but Isak works hard on the numbers and worked hard on the numbers last season for Newcastle. So it's a lot of that comes down to what it is that you see, if you know what I mean, like how your eye sort of processes this. But in terms of Isak goes off when he goes off, and he puts in, I think it's about the second highest number of pressures for any Liverpool player over the course of the game, but you just don't really register it because of the nature of the player that he is.
I think I disagree on the number 9s from last season, because if you put Jota in, and feels mad to talk about this, but we are based on last season. Jota always felt like he'd be busy, he'd throw in a tackle, he'd get stuck in, he'd do something that would lift the crowd. Nunes, as mad as he was, and
Jota did feel like that, but it's worth saying that Liverpool played their best football of last season when Jota came out of the team. Jota got injured about sort of 7 games in, and it might have been that Liverpool would have improved if he hadn't got injured, but when he comes out of the team, when you move into that sort of November, December period, he's injured, and that's when Liverpool arguably play the best football, when it's alternating between Diaz and Nunes up front. And, I think they're both doing well in amongst all of that. But Nunes' contribution was primarily movement, both when we had the ball and when we didn't. Diaz, I think, would drop deep and do a little bit more sort of attacking midfielder stuff. Yeah, don't get me wrong, he would do that. But he was people's frustration was whoever it is who's playing up front for Liverpool just doesn't feel as involved as the left winger than the right winger. And certainly in a creative sense, as involved as the left winger and the right winger. But I think it's perfect. The right back, I actually think, as I say, before they concede, because I think it's just two different games. Before they concede, I just think the right side's working well. I think it is just working well on the whole, in that it felt a little bit like Jones and Szoboszlai were swapping. There was a lot of interchange between the two of them, which I thought was working quite well. Certainly when we had the ball, it felt like Szoboszlai was encouraged to then to sort of break out of that position, and Jones had an eye on the space. I thought that was working fine. I think that you can definitely make the argument, and I think this is back to, well, why does he pick Isak? He picks Isak, so you need to get Isak into form and fitness, but you lost. And part of the frustration around McAllister earlier in the season, at the very least, was, he was picking McAllister to get McAllister into form and fitness, and we were getting beat.
Yeah, I understand that argument. But I can. If it's in the days of when we were so reliant on bringing Daniel Sturridge back in, and then we just had to play him, and we've got Ekitike on the bench, and we don't.
I was surprised he started Isak. I was surprised until the rumours came out Isak starting on the Saturday. I was surprised he started Isak.
So then when we're from 2-0 down, I actually missed the second goal, because it happens fucking straight after half time, doesn't it? And I was walking up the steps because I'd been in the toilet, hadn't heard any reaction. So whatever was happening, whether I was on my phone or whatever, I walk up and I see like this gorgeous red sky, and I think the sky is gorgeous, and then I look to my right and the fucking scoreboard says 2-0. I'm like, what the fuck? How did you think? I mean, this is a stupid question almost, but how did you think we looked? Because, like, with every substitute that we put on, I was getting even more infuriated. Like, this idea of just throwing boys on and then it just being this, like, mixed match, it's like there's no... if you're worried about Liverpool's identity this season, well, you need to watch them in final 30 minutes whenever they're 1-0 down or 2-0 down, because there's just a complete loss of any sense of this is what we're trying to do.
But the ironic thing is, I actually think they were poorer when they took Isak off. I thought Ekitike came on and looked quite dangerous, and I thought that the side looked a little bit dangerous. I didn't quite understand swapping Jones back to right back and moving Szoboszlai back into midfield at that point. I just sort of think you've made your bet and you stick with it. But I actually thought there was 5 minutes there where it was the best 5 minutes that we have in the second half. It was immediately after that. And then Isak, I think, obviously comes off again, but this is back to sports science. But this is where I get a bit irritated, because I understand football management's not easy, but you've effectively already decided one of your subs, or you've already decided when one of your subs needs to come off is. So you're obliging yourself to do that at that point in a game where you don't know what the scoreline is. You put your team sheet in at 1:45, and you do not know what the scoreline is at 67 minutes and how the game looks. And then you have to take him off. I thought Chiesa came on and offered very, very little, other than the fact that he wants to get stuck in, but it's not enough. And in fact, to me, he looks like he wants to get stuck in like a fan. And people like that. Fans like that. We like to see a lad who's going to run around, get booked, show a bit of petulance and all that. And there's bits of me that sort of likes it. But in truth,
not the petulance, not the yellow card. We don't want that. But we want a bit of something.
Yeah, well, I want people to get stuck in, but it's not. But the way he's getting stuck in is, well, he's late. You know what I mean? He's trying to win balls that aren't there for him to go and win, because he's just not quite sort of got on his bike enough. But anyway, I think ultimately the manager ends up with one more sub to use, and there might be tons of reasons around this as well, around recovery days and things like that, but I'm a little bit of the view it wouldn't have been the end of the world to see either Joe Gomez or Calvin Ramsey kick a football at 3-0 even.
At some stage,
at 3-0, because you might as well go and see or learn something. But again, there could be sports science reasons for that. I think throwing, I was fine with. In fact, I would argue it could have happened earlier in terms of Ekitike comes on and Gravenberch goes to centre back. Absolutely fine with that one. He does Kirkes for Robertson, but I think he's trying to go to something like a back three to get another attacker on the pitch. But I just think it just ruined the shape.
Yeah, it did. 100%.
So I think he's
no one knows where anyone is.
Well, I think so. He's gone to and I think you would have been better off at that point just to have stuck with. Well, this is the way we play, and we just sort of go with that. But managers go where they go, and then he brings Ngamoa on, and I just don't think I think he's happy at the minute to stand his full back up and do a couple of little bits, but I almost feel it would be, that's a 2-0, he comes on. I think you'd almost better wanting him to have a mad 10 from 86 if you've made it 2-1. So a 2-0 he comes on. If you've made it 2-1 on it and you throw him on 86, that might have been better.
Well, he beat a man once, which was more than what had happened in the previous sort of 10, 15 minutes.
Well, yeah, exactly. So, and it's not having to go with the young lads and then you go from there. To me, it just looks low. It's like 22, 23 now.
Yeah.
And I think I've got 20, like, I can imagine them beating Man United 7-0. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's,
on a day where it clicks and they get an early goal and there's no resilience. Yeah,
just go first.
exactly.
I've got all the results from 22-23 in front of me, and I don't want to bang this drum too much because they do manage to draw a couple of games in 22-23 after they've gone behind, but they don't draw many of them. So they draw 3-3 with Brighton on the 1st of October in 2022. They don't draw another game then until it's in the League Cup third round against Derby County, 0-0. They then don't draw another game until it's in the FA Cup third round. And then they get a horrible 0-0 at home to Graham Potter's Chelsea on my birthday.
You never have a good time on your birthday, do you?
Fucking horrendous. So they get that horrible 0-0 that day against Chelsea.
That was one of the worst Liverpool performances I've ever seen. But they get it.
They get it, but the point is that no one scores.
Yeah.
So the 0-0, the draw against Derby's and so the Wolves games are 2-2 where they get pegged back. The Derby games are 0-0 on the 9th of November. The Chelsea games are 0-0. The next draw that they get in the Premier League is a 0-0 at Crystal Palace. The next game that they get is a 0-0 at Stamford Bridge. So the next time, and we'll all remember the game, is when Arsenal come to Anfield and Xhaka and Trent Alexander-Arnold have that thing. That's the 9th of April. So I've just described there from that Brighton game, which is the 1st of October, until the 9th of April. There isn't a game where they go behind and get anything from it. In any of those matches. When they go behind, it is game over. There's one exception, which is when we play Leicester at Christmas. Leicester go 1-0 up, and then that lad puts it through his own net twice. So he scores two own goals. He scores two own goals, which fucking helps. But, there is not a game. I found one. I was sort of doing. No, they did score first against Southampton. So they score first against Southampton, and Southampton pegged them back immediately. Every other game in that run, if they don't score first, then it finishes 0-0 or they get beat.
Yeah.
From the 9th of October the 1st of October until the 9th of April. That is, I'll tell you the number of games that includes, just to really sort of get the listeners' juices flowing on start the week. That is 34 football matches.
Yeah.
33 football matches.
So there's been a lot of talk about the manager at the weekend, hasn't there? And we're going to do... we've got, obviously, the free shows coming out later. We've got Unwrapped as well.
So Unwrapped's going to be all about
big lineup on that, all about Arne Slot and his future, because that's what fans are talking about at the minute. When I look at this... with Jurgen, I always knew that he had gone through something like this before. They went
1-0 down at Rangers. Sorry, I've just double-checked Rangers. They went 1-0 down at Rangers and then beat them 7-1. Go on. Doesn't count. I'm not having it.
With Jurgen, particularly in this season, I knew that no matter how bad things got, we could turn it around, whether it was at the end of the season or whether it was before the end of the season, because I knew that this was a manager who had been through this before. You think of the season after we won the league in 2021, that season, at different times through his career, had a much longer career than Arne Slot. My worry with Arne at the minute is that I back him as a coach, and I'm unsure whether he'll be able to lead us out of this. So it's not about him as a manager or a coach. It's just his ability to, and that isn't just like these performances either. It's everything that surrounded the club this year. It takes a massive personality and a massive leader to be able to lead a football club at a time when they've had to come up against that, and that's maybe one of the reasons why he gets more time. Obviously, when the Premier League is a massive reason why he gets more time. I'm not someone that after the game in the weekend was going, sack. I'm just not. I knew not to react immediately after a game and give it a couple of days. I think it's going to be a really interesting period of time now because it's a run of fixtures where we said that they were more favourable. It obviously hasn't started the way that we wanted. I think if we beat PSV on Wednesday night, it doesn't really tell us anything. That West Ham game, you've talked about it loads, is huge. It's absolutely huge. And then if things are still going badly and you've got Sunderland on a Wednesday night, Sunderland are no pushovers, and you just get yourself into this hole with a manager who you wonder whether they are able to lead you out of that hole, given everything that's gone on at the football club, given the fact that you're watching a team that just are unable to bounce back from adversity at the moment. I don't know what you think on. I didn't mean to talk so long there.
That's all right. It's fine. I was perfectly fine with you talking as long as you did. I think it's exceptionally difficult to judge at the moment, because I think there's loads of ways in which you can conclude Liverpool at the weekend didn't look right, didn't look set up as you'd like, didn't look strong enough. I'm of the view that they were well set up for the match. Not perfectly, not brilliantly, not sort of innovatively, not like there was some sort of moment going on where I was like, oh, they're doing absolutely brilliantly here. Far from it, but they were well set up. There's, I think, a little bit of a thing here where I said that prior to the Villa game, I was worried that the manager didn't have the background of dealing with adversity, because frankly his career's gone quite well so far because he's good at coaching. So, I was worried a little bit about that.
I don't just mean that, although I mean like the Jota situation, everything.
No, that's what I mean. But that's what I mean as well. The point was, I was a little bit like, he's not had to deal with adversity so far in his career. It's one thing to coach, it's another thing to have to lead them and pull them together. And then he makes the big call against Palace, the players respond, and they get 2 good results against Villa and Real Madrid. But now we're on back-to-back league defeats again. Yeah. And I'm sort of the view that, as I say, you said, for instance, we'd seen Jurgen pull them round once in the past. Yeah, but he then got them back into that hole. If you know what I mean, like, there's 21-22, then there's 20-21, then there's 21-22, then there's 22-23.
Yeah.
So you can, I say that as someone who genuinely loves Jurgen. But
we don't do well after seasons where we've had success, do we?
Well, but I mean, but that is also another pattern of league winners since 2010, and also a little bit of league winners full stop, with the exception of a couple of, sort of a Liverpool, Manchester United and now Manchester City dynasty. Chelsea win a back-to-back title, obviously, but then by the time when it goes wrong, it goes very badly wrong for Chelsea. I think there's a couple of little things. Liverpool, after 16 games in 22-23, which I think is your parallel, genuinely think it is your parallel now. Liverpool after, because the thing about 2021 was, one, it was COVID, and 2, there was just a genuine fuck-off injury crisis in one part of the pitch, which, I don't think was quite the same.
It was something you could see. That's the difference. It's something that you could see. I can see that Nat Phillips and Reece Williams are starting at centre-back for Liverpool, and I can see how this... At the moment, what we're talking about is something you can't see, and it makes it much more difficult to work out what the reason is. You pinpoint the reason as just this one thing, what happens in the summer, whether it's,
Yeah, so after when they go into the international break in 22-23, Liverpool are played 16, 26 points. Currently, we're played 12, 18 points. So if we somehow, go with the same sort of average, we're a little bit over 16. I think I'm right in saying. No, sorry, a little bit over 26 when we get to 16. But that involves obviously winning a couple of games and going from there. But I think that at the minute, as I say, it's 12 and 18. I think I'm of the view that they, that season, for instance, after 16 games, 4th place was on 29 points, 3rd place was on 33 points. And that now feels a little bit tough. But then you look at everyone else in the league. City get beat at the weekend. You're sort of casting around a little bit. Bournemouth fail to win. Palace get themselves a good win, but they were playing Wolves. It's Villa win. It's a funny little moment for everyone apart from Arsenal. Tottenham, by the way, are a fucking myth. So I'm not worried about Tottenham in the slightest, really, other than they'll be dogs when we play them. I don't know.
It's not a funny moment for us, though. It's like,
no, we're crap.
This is
no, we're in real. I think the problem is, I just don't think, and I think that this is it. And I think what I'm trying to say about 22-23, and I think that's with Jurgen as manager, and I think this is now exactly the same as 22-23, when I just think we're in a situation where, for the foreseeable future, but I thought this before the game at the weekend, so this is hard. If we don't score first, we won't win. That's it now, and we probably won't, and we'll probably get beat. If we concede the first goal, we'll probably get beat.
But that's a huge part of what is expected of a manager. It's not just to set them up in the first half. It's to have a game plan for when things don't go well. Like, I think back to last season, when things weren't going well last season. What usually would happen is there'd be a change at 9, whether it was someone like Nunez coming on to try and pin back the defence. It was a really strong change at left up top with Gakpo and Diaz, where you brought one in, one out, and the identity stayed the same. And that's my worry is that.
But I don't think that but the other thing he would do is he'd put Gravenberch to centre back. Like he did that loads last season. Whenever we needed to get a goal, and it worked.
To a certain extent,
it worked really well, I thought, on the whole. But you're saying so. But what is hard is I'm watching those lads, and I don't think they've got it in them. So you can talk about they concede the goal that they concede against. Literally, you saw it on the pitch. They went 1-0 down. They were all absolutely desperate to try to make it right, and then for 9 minutes they don't even manage to have a shot.
Yeah.
And that's nothing. The manager's not got them in at half time at that point. The manager's not done any reorganisation. He's not made a sub. He's not changed a thing. They just did not have it in them.
No.
And that's what worries me. And that's why I find this, and you want to talk about the wider stuff, but also in general, I think, again, go back to 22-23, when it was in the aftermath of Paris and everything that had gone on there, the way that season had ended and the way everyone felt in the aftermath of all of that, and everything that had happened. But obviously that's nowhere near as bad as what we've just seen in the summer that's just gone. But it really felt as though it was a tired football club.
Yeah.
And that you were seeing it on the pitch, and you were seeing it in the body language of the coaching staff, all the coaching staff at that period, it's worth pointing out as well. And it just felt as though it was aching. The football club was aching. And then we got to the start of the following season, and it felt as though it was rejuvenated. I'm looking at them at the minute, and I'm seeing something very similar. They concede, and so that's why I struggle to sort, like, I would love nothing more than to be able to go, well, it's that fella's fault, and he either gets better or it changes, or he goes, and then it'll be better and different anyway. I just don't think that.
No. But that's part of the issue, isn't it? You're looking across it and going, well, it's everyone is a different person at the end of every game, a different player at the end of every game.
And I think that
it's hard. It's really hard.
And so that's where I sort of end up, and it's not me. So, I'm quite at the minute. I think we've sort of, like, I don't think. I was critical of aspects of the summer as we went, and then I shut my mouth as the season started because I don't want to be that prick. But I just do feel as though Liverpool have ended up in a situation where they, genuinely, you said before about you change this and you change this.
Yeah, they don't have that change.
But also, by virtue of everything that went on with Isak, and it's not Isak's, well, a bit of it's Isak's fault, but it's not Isak's fault in terms of his performances now. But Liverpool started the season with 3 attacking options. 3. Only 3. They started, in September, they only have 3 attacking options. Only 3. And last season they had 5. And yeah, you have injuries and things come and go, and that's the way seasons work. But last season they had 5 before you went down to, for instance, Chiesa and so on. This season they've literally only had 3, and I'm still of the view they've only got 3 because Isak's not fit. And it's about to be, people are buying advent calendars.
Yeah.
And you can do the thing where you go, well, we're not buying them for 6 months, we're buying them for 6 years, or whatever, that language. And I think there's a lot of truth to that language. I don't disagree with it. But the flip side of it is, well, firstly, you need to make sure you've got enough other options for the 6 months, which we haven't got.
Yeah.
And then I think the other part of that becomes you've got to make sure that you've got a plan as to how he's going to be ready for after the 6 months. I also think that Liverpool, if I was doing Liverpool's review, like from the fucking top down, I'd be saying, is it actually, and because there's other evidence now this season, not least Newcastle themselves with Wissa, is it actually smart to end up in a situation where you have a lad who doesn't have a pre-season? Is that actually smart? We've actually got our own evidence from last season with Chiesa, and Chiesa's a different player who had a different couple of seasons prior to with injury, but we end up getting Chiesa in, and Arne Slot spends the whole of the season saying, well, one of the issues is he never had a pre-season. And arguably that's still one of the issues, and we're a year and a half into him playing for Liverpool. So lads can't with the way it is now, and everyone talks about the weight of games on the players and having more sympathy for the players, and I've got tons, but therefore you lose a pre-season, you're fucked. So you're in real bother. And so that goes back into that decision. So I think there's loads and loads of other little factors going all the way through. Again, for instance, we knew that they wanted a centre-back. They've got themselves into a situation where, rightly or wrongly, it was Mark Gay or no one, and it became no one. Well, did that have to be? I mean, they did bring Leone in, and they've had hard lines there. But they ended up in that situation, and that's the way in which it went. So and then also part of this is that McAllister has been that McAllister sort of problem, which is whilst I thought he was really good against Villa and Madrid at the weekends, I think he was pretty good for 20 minutes, and then his performance just sort of dissipated and disappeared.
He's almost the epitome of all of this, isn't he? Because a lot of the tiredness you can see is tiredness in their heads. It's not. It's mental sort of fatigue, isn't it? Through things that have happened, through the way things are going. It's all of that rather than actual minutes and legs.
Anyway, this is all going to be done on the show.
Sorry,
so let me do the show. So the shows that we got coming out today. Listen, John.
I hadn't talked to anyone about Liverpool over the weekend.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I should have put you on something. They've got the Anfield Wrap coming later on today. Ian Ryan, Beth Lindup and Rob Gutman for that one. Touring Wrap coming up, Paul Senior, Josh Williams. Who else did I get for that in the end? Gibbo with Josh Sexton for that one. Weekends will be coming out for you as well. Press conference extra will be tomorrow, so look forward to that one after the manager does his press conference before PSV. That's at 3:30 p.m. tomorrow, so the show will be about 5 o'clock tomorrow. I'll move that live now right in front of you on the work calendar there for you. There you are. Review extra, where we're talking about the North London derby and a little bit about Leeds. That is to come. 10 topics will be out tomorrow as well. Trends, me and Josh Williams getting stuck back into this. Euro report, got a really good Dutch journalist coming to tell us what PSV are up to, mostly winning, to be honest with you. Nice. They win a lot.
Sounds good.
Shoot treatment coming out on Wednesday morning with Andy Heaton. Everything's out for free, by the way. Bacon on Wednesday morning as well. Rob and Mo on Wednesday morning, and then everything post-matched after PSV. By the way, I think we'll win.
So do I.
Yeah, I think we'll win.
Don't think it tells us that much.
No one tells us a thing, and that's the problem. When you end up in this situation where everyone walks out of wins and goes, well, it's not moved us along.
Yeah. No more football chat, Neil. We've got to do this in the show.
Midweek extra. Audio only on Thursday. Loads of good audio shows. So midweek extras audio only this week. Review after PSV will be out. There should be a Neil Hand out on Thursday as well. Getting that button down at the minute. Really good Friday show to come as well. I'm doing an event on Thursday night in Liverpool with Joey Durr, so if you get the opportunity, please come along to that one about his book, which is about football kits. On Friday, Rewinds, looking ahead to the game against West Ham. 5 things from the PSV game with Beth Lind, and 5 things we learned pre-match warm-up for West Ham. Friday night, AFQ also on Friday, and that launches us into Sunday. All your post-match West Ham coverage that you could ask for. It's been start of the week. Craig Hannan, Neil Atkinson, Jordan Singleton on the 1s and 2s. See you later on.
Share with your mates, please.